Good afternoon, everybody. So we have seen all the technical side of the radio regulations. Here it would be how to notify frequency assignments for its recording in the master register and plans. We have already heard master register. It's a database which contains frequency assignments that are in operation or, well, which should contain all the frequency assignments that are in operation. In order to enter this database, the frequency assignments should comply with the radio regulations. The reason is radio regulations is a collection of provisions. Once applied, they will enable users to use the radio spectrum without causing harmful interference to other users. And in addition to that, the radio regulation is an international treaty, which the administrations have the obligations to apply as it's signed by all member states, and in order to claim for international recognition, which means that other administrations must take into consideration what is already recorded in the master register with favorable findings when they are selecting assignments for their own use. And we also saw that plans also is database. We saw that there are broadcasting, aeronautical, maritime, different types. But in this database, we have assignments, frequency assignments that are reserved. These reservation of frequencies are done during regional planning conferences. And a plan in generally applies for a certain frequency band for a specific service and within a defined area. But however, even though the frequency assignments are reserved for your administration, when you decide to put it into operation, you need to notify for its recording in the master register, because only assignments that are recorded in the master register with favorable findings can claim for international recognition. So we will see that for recording in the master register, we will see which frequency assignments should be notified, because there are frequencies that should not be notified, and also when to notify, because there is a time limit, time frame to respect. Whereas to modify a plan, it can be done whenever it is needed. We will also see in this presentation how to notify the required data items and also how to submit to the Bureau. So let's take an example, the principle of a notification. So we want to assign a frequency to a station. So the first thing that we need to know is to make sure that the frequency that we have selected is allocated to the service that we want to put into operation. For that, we need to check the Article 5 and see, okay, is this frequency is assigned, for example, for broadcasting? And the next question is to check, is there a plan for that frequency for my administration within the where my administration is located? If the answer is no, then we need to check, as I said before, there are some frequencies that should not be notified. We need to see if what I want to put into operation complies with the provisions that are required to be notified. If that is the case, then you must notify as soon as it is decided to put into operation. We will see the time limits later on for its recording in the master register. Now, if you take another example, this frequency falls within a plan. So what I have to do is I need to check the plan to see if this frequency, which is do I have this frequency recorded in the plan for my administration? If the answer is yes, then I need to check the technical characteristics, because some plans might be old and maybe the technical characteristics which are recorded in the plan is no longer what I would like to put in operation. So if that's the case, then you first need to go and modify the plan, so put in the new characteristics and follow the plan modification. The same way, if that frequency that I wanted to put into operation is not in the plan for my administration, then again, I need to go through the plan modification, and once this frequency enters into the plan successfully, all the coordination is done, then I can put it into operation and notify for its recording in the master register. So, as I said, some frequencies must be notified, and there are ones which should not be notified. So if it's capable to cause harmful interference to any services of another administration, if it's used for international radio communication, it's subject to World Regional Frequency Allotment Assignment Plan, which does not have its own notification procedure. We saw many of these plans. Subject to Article 9, which means that if you look in the Article 5, for some frequency on the footnotes, it says that you need to first go through the coordination procedure under 921 before being able to notify under Article 11. Of course, if you want your assignments to be protected, which means to have international recognition, it has to be in the master register. And there is also a possibility to notify for information only, but these assignments cannot cause any harmful interference to those that are already recorded with favorable findings. It's just for information only. And also, well, the frequencies that should not be notified is those that are assigned to amateur service, assignments to ship stations and to mobile stations of other services, for instance, ship to ship or ship to plane. If the frequency is specified in the radio regulations for common use, it's not necessary to notify because they're already registered in the master register. And also the broadcasting stations which falls within high frequency bands, there is a specific notification procedure which is called Article 12. So these ones should not be notified. So, which data items to notify? If it's for recording in the master register, administrations must provide the relevant characteristics which are listed in Appendix 4. If it's to modify a given plan, then administrations must submit the relevant characteristics which are listed in the relevant agreements. To facilitate the notification, we have created different notice types with the required data items. And also, to facilitate the notification, we need the preface, because when notifying, we use symbols and codes to facilitate the notification. So, when to notify? So, for recording in the master register, the notices shall reach the Bureau not earlier than 3 years if the assignment is involved in the coordination of with a satellite network, and not earlier than 3 months for all other terrestrial stations. To modify a plan, it can be done whenever needed. There's no time limit to respect. How to notify the data items that are required? So we need to prepare a notice for each frequency and for each station. However, there is an exception if the same frequency is reused with identical technical characteristics many times within a given area. Then you may submit just one notice with the typical characteristics, but it is to keep in mind that it does not apply to all frequency bands and to all services. You may see where it does not apply in the radio regulations under provision 1118 to 1121B. We have a lot of notice types. So we have grouped them in 3 categories. We call LFMF, low and medium frequency bands for sound broadcasting. Then we have FMTV, which is for VHF and UHF frequency bands for sound and television broadcasting, and FXM, fixed, mobile, and other terrestrial services. So the notice type that we accept from administration is only electronic. We do not have paper notices since long time ago, 2009. And it is a text file, but it has a specific structure. It has to start with a head section. Then you will have a notice section. You could have as many notice sections as you wish. Within the notice section, you will have technical and administrative data. And it must end with a tail section which indicates the number of notices within the electronic notice file. On our website, you may find additional information and also different examples of notice types. How to create a notice? Well, it's a text file. Anybody could use a notepad, but considering that it has a specific structure, to facilitate, we provide a software in the BRFIC, which is called Terra Notices. One thing which is really important is before submitting to the Bureau, the notices should be validated because we only accept notices which are complete and valid. Terra Notices provide a validation facility, but it is just a pre-validation. For that, now we have two possibilities to validate. We can use the web application, the e-validation tool. You can upload the file that you have created and send it for validation, and you will receive an email once it's available, once the validation is over, sorry. And this tool is open to all users having a ITU username with Thai services. And now we have a new option which is to validate during the submission to the Bureau. So you can submit and request it to be validated during the submission. It also, when you do that, you have the possibility, imagine your file has errors or warnings. You could consult, you will have a link to the e-validation portal to check the error or warning. If you think that the errors, you want to correct them, you can cancel your submission, correct it and resubmit. If it's warnings that you say, okay, these warnings are acceptable, I can go ahead, so you can continue your submission. But this is only for registered WESFAT users. To access these two tools, you can go to the websites that are mentioned on this slide. For the submission, as I said, it is a secured website. Only registered users have access to it. As soon as you submit, you will receive an acknowledgement report, depending on the option that you have selected. An administration can have as many notifiers as requested, but it is the responsibility of the administration to keep this list up to date. To become a registered WESFAT user, it's the administration who selects who is going to be their notifier, and they have to send an official email to brmail@itu.int and by giving the name, position, service email, and ITU username. And you may have access here. Okay, so just an overview of the recording in the master register. So you identify what the data items to which notice type, and then you identify to fill it in, you create your notice, then you do your validation, either with e-validation or during the submission. Then you will submit via WESFAT. There will be a final validation on our side because the database is active, so between the submission and the time we receive, things might have changed. Then for Article 11, there will be a part 1, which is an acknowledgement of receipt. No examination is done. It's just to show that we have received and we have published. So you can check that we have done the correct the data is as you expected. Thereafter, examinations will be done depending on the frequency band. And if it complies with the provisions, it will be published in part 2 and it will be recorded in the master register. In case it does not comply, then it will be published in part 3 and it will be returned to the administration, and the administration is informed what to do in order to correct it. The plan modification is also similar, so you create, validate, VESFAT, same thing. But here, after the final validation, there will be an examination to identify the potential affected administration, and it will be published in the relevant special section with the coordination deadline. Once this period of coordination is over and you have obtained all the agreements, then it will be published in Part B, and it will enter into the plan. So for my final remarks, I would say notification has two aspects. It is the administration's obligation to apply the provisions of the radio regulations, as it's an international treaty. And it also enables to claim for international recognition. Remember, the master register must reflect the exact use of the radio spectrum. And it also reflects the use of certain frequency bands. This information, as it was also mentioned by Nikolai, are taken during WRCs because there are many services who are looking for new allocations. So if we see that a band is not used, even though it's used, this way it reflects the exact use of the allocation. And it's also important to consult the BRFIC to be aware of what is happening with regards to the use of the radio spectrum by your neighboring countries, as well as to follow up your submission. So therefore, notification to the Bureau is very important. So I would thank you for your attention.